Babe. It's 4 p.m, time for a political test video.
Yes, honey. Hello there! I'm gonna do now something that was recommended by one of you guys. The 9-axis political test. Because that's what I do best. You know it's true because it rhymes. Everything that rhymes is true. Let's get right into this. Probably much better test than the political comp, but probably still less good than the beautiful, perfect, 1,000 views heavy political skills test. Which I'd like to thank you guys for having watched so much of it. I'm gonna do the short version for this video. And if you guys want me to do the longer version, I might do it in a stream or something, but that's just a bit too much for it. Like, share, and subscribe immediately if you like the video, okay? Bye! Enjoy the questions. The internet should be bad. I mean, yes, but no. The internet is... Without it, you know, none of us would have any fun in life, you know? War usually leads to worse outcomes. I mean, yes, I would agree. I would definitely agree that war usually leads to worse outcomes than not having a war. Alliances can pose a threat to a nation's sovereignty. I mean, they can, but they most likely don't. Like, alliances are sometimes the very thing that keeps national sovereignty alive. Having other countries there to defend your national sovereignty if it is threatened is very good. A better world will come from automation, science, and technology. A better world, but for who? The world won't be better for the people that lose their jobs because of that automation, science, and technology. The world won't be better for them. It will be a better world for the average consumer, probably. But just can't say really if it's gonna make anything better or worse. It makes a lot of things better, it makes a lot of things worse. Let's just not do it. Nobody in other countries has our best interest in mind. That's not true. There's definitely people in other countries that can have your best interest in mind. Although they of course always have their best interests in mind. But nobody has, like, their best interests don't necessarily mean that their best interests could be also your best interest. So like, two countries' goals can't align. We saw that plenty of times in history. The governments should not regulate the economy at all. Strongly disagree. And a completely unregulated economy is stupid. It's completely stupid. No. Thank you. No. Religion does not belong in government. Absolutely. Religion doesn't belong anywhere. Religion should not exist. Genetic modification should be used rarely, if ever. Sure. You can use it for regions that are starving, you know, producing genetically modified food that grows quickly and get those people fed. But otherwise, you know, let's just stick with the things that we have. As long as we have enough of them. The society was better many years ago than it is now. Yes, especially now. Most bad things happening in the world are caused by us turning away from religion. Most bad things in the world have nothing to do with religion. Many bad things in the world are the responsibility of religions. State and local laws should have precedent over national laws. Strongly disagree. If the national government says no, you have to do that, you have to do that. You have to have a national government that has the power to enforce what is good on the entire country. Like right now with the virus, enforcing a lockdown on the entire country. You can't have like a few states saying, no, we don't want. The government needs to have the power to overrule what the local governments say. Abortion should be legal in all cases. Absolutely not. It should be illegal in almost all cases, except when, you know, either the baby or the mother is about to die if it doesn't happen. It's important to save at least one life. Subdivisions should not be able to exempt from national laws. Absolutely agree. I just told you that before. Public opinion swings too much with emotional events to be useful for policymaking. Absolutely. Especially what we see right now. How easily public opinion is swayed by very few people into having millions of people go out and protest for something that they know nothing about. This shows that you can't rely on public opinion for anything. Immigrants can never really adapt to our way of life. I disagree. Some definitely can. It always depends where they are from and how ready they are to do so. Religious organizations often provide better assistance to the poor than the government does. Strongly disagree, they definitely do not. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion, even now. Following just what the majority of people wants is stupid. The majority of people don't know anything about politics. Democracy makes it too easy for a majority to further itself at the expense of minority. No, definitely not. I don't agree with this sentiment at all. In politics, there are no majorities and minorities. Every issue has a different majority. You might be in the minority on this one issue, but the next election or the next vote on something, a referendum or whatever, now you're in the majority again. You are not in politics. You are never always in the minority or always in the majority. So definitely not. Democracy is the best way of government to give the minority a voice. It's the only governmental form that allows minorities to sway the vote. It is the only thing that allows minorities to really speak up and get people to agree with them and get them to do something for them. In a completely authoritarian monarchy or whatever, absolute monarchy or something like that, you have to hope that the king who decides everything is on the side of the minorities. But if he only cares about what the majority wants or only cares about what he himself wants, well then you have nothing to do. You can do nothing against it except revolt or rebel. So democracy, whilst flawed, is definitely a good model it's basically the only thing we have to really allow minorities in whatever issue we're talking about to be heard and to sway the views of the majorities. So I disagree. Police need more power and protection, definitely. They need a lot more. Like we see right now, definitely the police needs more powers. They definitely need more power to do what they have to do. But they also we need to hold the police to an overall better standard. That comes with that. Giving them more power means that we have to hold them to a better standard, rooting out corruption and criminality inside the police itself. People who would be described as like we really need to take a look at what kind of people are in the police for. Recently I saw a guy on Twitter that gave me a good argument and a lot of articles, from questionable news sources, but of course there's something about it, of how, for example, the KKK is trying to infiltrate the American police. Obviously it's not working considering they're all getting fired. But still, you need to really know who's part of your police force. These people can't be activists. They need to be politically neutral. You have them politically neutral and mentally stable. Sane. Not have them be absolutely fucking retarded, where they go and push over an old pensioner that is coming towards them. Like in that one video where some people say it's fake. It's not fake. But it is what it is, and you need to hold them to better standards. You also need to increase their power and their protection from people who want to do them harm, which also happens. Local governments can understand their citizens better than the national government could. Totally, I strongly agree with that. And now, that doesn't contradict what I said previously. Local governments, I think, are more important as an advisory body to the national government on how to act on certain laws than they are on something that has to have their own laws that have to be above national law. That's stupid. I think these local governments need to act basically as advisors for the national government that help them make the laws so that all regions in your country can profit of the laws. Every religion must be looked upon equally by the government. Exactly. Every religion should be equally banned by the government. There should be no police force. No. The government should not fund any religious organizations in any way. True. Having independent nations with the risk of global conflict creates a large threat to humanity as a whole. Of course, it does. But, who cares? We haven't had any kind of major war for the last 70 years. And even when they happen, although it's millions and millions of people that die, we have billions and billions of people that live here on this planet. So, as much as we like to say, oh, war is so horrible, in the end, not that many people really die. Percentage-wise, okay, in some regions it's a lot, but still, it's the vast majority of people survive the wars, yeah? So, it's a risk that we can take. Some freedom must be given up in order to keep people safe. Oh, totally, definitely. The freedom to do whatever the fuck you want and just murder people and things like that needs to be given up in order to have an actual functioning society, which is important. The wealthy have far more than they need. They totally have way too much. They have so much. It's ridiculous. They don't need any of it. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it and that there's anything wrong with it. But let's just acknowledge that they have way too much and that they really don't need it. People should have equal opportunity to succeed. Totally. Everyone from the start should have the equal opportunity to do whatever they need to do, to get educated, to get work, to do whatever. Yeah? Of course, also depending on how well they performed previously. If you equal opportunity in the terms of you have a person that completely failed in school and a person that was always top student, yeah, they can't really be treated equally when it comes to a same job position. One is going to be taken, and it's pretty obvious which one it will be. A nation must obey its leadership without question. Sometimes, yes. like sometimes the countries need to do things that are not supported by the majority of the people. Austria, I'm gonna take the Austrian example here because that's what I know most about. In Austria, if people had not basically obeyed the government with lockdown and with not going out and with not always wearing a mask, the virus outbreak would have never slowed down as it has. Sometimes you just need to follow what the people on top say, even if you don't agree with it, because they know the best. Like they know about everything that's going on. They have the best view of what is going on internationally, of what's going on. They know everything about the intricacies. They know so much more than you ever will. So you should maybe follow what they're saying. Agree. Sometimes it's of course stupid. Like very often you can see, okay, the government is saying something that's obviously not correct. You shouldn't obey everything. If they're trying to establish a violent dictatorship, then maybe don't obey them. But otherwise, alliances are important for protecting a nation. Absolutely, especially weaker nations. Like, for example, the old Eastern Bloc countries. If they had not come up and joined NATO, they'd probably, at this point, all been invaded by Russia. It is how it is. Perfect. Greatest quality, Almdudler Original. Die österreichische Kräuterlimonade. Almdudler. Kaufen Sie jetzt. Local governments should have more power than they currently do. I disagree. They already have way more than enough power. Here in Australia, they have way more than enough power. They can basically make their own laws that they want. And we have it pretty well here. I think they should have a little bit less power than they currently do. Like, they shouldn't have this thing where they can just do whatever they want and the government can't do anything about it. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. I mean, it would be a good idea. I mean, like we said, the rich already have a lot. But also we need to understand that the rich already pay a lot of taxes. Like, there's already a lot of taxes on the rich. And even in a flat tax scenario, the rich pay the most taxes of anyone. Because, rich person who makes like $1 million a month, they'll have to pay 200,000, something like that. Don't fact check me on that because I just pulled that out of my behind. But to be honest, having a tax that is slightly higher on people who make a lot of money to give back to the people who make nothing, to the people who are homeless, to the people who are unemployed, is definitely not a bad idea. Illegal immigrants should be deported in all cases. If you're an illegal immigrant, you've entered the country illegally, meaning you have to be thrown out immediately. That's how it works. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an illegal immigrant, Otherwise, it would just be an immigrant. I don't see the controversy. It is better to maintain a balanced budget than to ensure welfare for all citizens. Having a balanced budget is very important. So yes, but you also need to ensure welfare for all citizens. You need to do both. And how do you do that? Tax raises, which are completely fine, my fellow libertarian friends. Having to pay a few more taxes in order to get a bunch of extra services, especially for the people in your country who are very weak when it comes to their monetary abilities, the people who are unemployed, the people who are homeless, they need more money. They need to be helped. Yeah? And if you don't believe in that, you're not a true patriot, you're not a true nationalist, you're not somebody who likes their nation, you're just somebody who is an incredibly selfish cunt. Government must be by the people, for the people. What a weird kind of saying. Yes, of course, the government needs to be elected by the people. Best way to do it, parliamentary democracy. Everyone votes for whatever party they want. The entire nation votes. The popular vote of the entire nation counts. Seats are allocated to the parties. They then agree on a government. They appoint their ministers and their chancellor from within themselves, from the people that were elected by the people, and then they govern for the people. Obviously they didn't, but still, they shouldn't do just what the people want. They need to do what is needed to do. They need to make the difficult decisions, even the ones that are unpopular. They need to do what's right. They are elected by the people, and they work for what the people need. There is no need for local or state governments. There is a need for them. Yeah, I disagree. You need them as an advertising body, like something to help the government, the national government, know what they need to do for the local region. You need them to give the locals of especially small communities at least some kind of self-determination where they can get what is important for them done. Otherwise, if you have only the national government and you want them to fix your road in your little community, they're probably not going to put that at a very high priority. Traditions are of no value on their own. Traditions are important. It's just traditions, literally the things that have been done and who've seemed to work. So why let's just keep doing them. Also, traditions are very, very important to maintain your national culture and your national solidarity. People, it creates this factor of being united for one nation, and that is important. That's why tradition is very important. Keep people together and give people morality, outside of religion, because that shouldn't exist. So I agree that some traditions, though, definitely have no value just because, this is how we've always done it, doesn't mean that this is right. So traditions definitely should be reviewed and looked at if this really applies in our modern day and age. There should be compulsory military service. There should not be. Only people who want to be in the military should have to be in the military. Only if you want to make a career out of it should you be allowed to join the military and serve your country. And as long as we uphold all the other values of making people love their nation, that's going to be more than enough people than you need. The world is no longer in a situation where we're at the threat of imminent war. We don't need a massive military, especially in a country like us where we're neutral, or at least we're supposed to be, but we're not really. We only need a small defensive force. There's no necessity in taking away 6 months of every young person's life just for them to get humiliated for 6 months straight. There's no point in that. That just destroys young people's confidence of it. A military made up of people who want that as a job. That's going to be the most dedicated people anyway. This kind of militia thinking of having to take everyone in immediately when they're at some age, have them join the military for a little bit, is stupid. Countries fall apart with constant war. Totally. We've seen that many times before. When a country is constantly at war, they get less and less stable. Especially when they take new territory thanks to those wars. Those just increased instability. A nation's culture is important to protect. Extremely important. Culture is everything. Without culture, there is no nation. Without a nation, what's the point? In the modern era, militaries aren't really necessary. I agree. Militaries aren't really necessary. Having your own national military, especially now that the world is so peaceful, more peaceful than ever before, is not necessarily. Victimless crime, such as drug use, should not be crimes at all. The taking of drugs should definitely not be a crime. You taking whatever you take should not be a crime. If they sold it to you, that's the crime. They're gonna get imprisoned, you're free to go. So they shouldn't. Diplomacy only hurts nations. Absolutely fucking not. Diplomacy is something of the most important things. You can achieve so much when countries work together instead of when they work against each other. So many conflicts in history could have been avoided by doing actual diplomacy. Of course, sometimes you have the case with an old Senior Hilter who decides to just ignore every diplomatic agreement you make with him. At that point, yes, you should go to war. But trying it diplomatically is the most important thing because most things can be solved diplomatically immediately. And it doesn't make anyone weaker. It makes both sides stronger. A war will always leave both sides involved in it much weaker than any diplomatic agreement could have had them in. All societies are a blend of culture. They're not. They're really not. Most societies on this planet are made up of exactly one culture with maybe a few smaller subcultures alongside them. So no, they're not. A nation usually needs a military in order to survive. I mean, if you look back in history, yes, that is true. You don't really need a big military. You can have like local protection alliances where you send people from your country or people from the other countries, like in the EU, for example. All EU nations contribute a few people for a universal military that defends the entire bloc. Those kinds of militaries can still exist. But considering that it's completely peaceful right now you don't really need a military to survive. Historically speaking, you do. If a country has no military at all, and another country has interests in owning, then that's definitely dangerous. If you're bordering Russia or China or the US and you don't have a military, you're probably gonna be fucked. But otherwise you don't need it necessarily, so I'm gonna be neutral on this. Anybody who wants to enter the country should be able to. No, not everyone. Definitely not everyone. You wouldn't want you wouldn't want criminals coming to your country. You wouldn't want terrorists to be able to just come into your country. You need a strong process of vetting people who come into your country. You need to You need to really look at who's coming into your country. They can't have committed crimes. Like, you can't have this scenario like in the EU where you commit a crime in one country and then just go over the border with no checks at all and nobody's following. You basically avoid any kind of punishment for what you do. You can't have that. You can't have it like in the US where people just come across the southern border with smuggling drugs and shit like that. You need to really control who's coming in. Good, now let's look at the results. So, on the divide between federal government, based out like with local governments and shit like that, or a national unified government, I'm moderate on that, 40 to 60%. Then democracy versus authority, I'm moderately authoritarian, which yes, of course I am, absolutely. Then democracy versus authority, I'm moderately authoritarian, which yes, of course I am, absolutely, totally. Although democracy, authoritarian, there's nothing about democracy, like you can have an authoritarian democracy. It's not like my ideal country has democracy. You have elections to elect who's in charge. Extreme globalist. I think the fuck not. I'm definitely not a globalist. I believe in strong national governments. I just believe that cooperating and working together with other countries is a very important thing that can definitely be beneficial for both sides. When it comes to the divide between military and pacifism, I'm of course an extreme pacifist. Then between security and freedom, I'm of course massively on the side of security, much more important than your personal freedom, thank you. Equality versus the markets, I'm of course for equality. When it comes to religion versus secular, I'm a fanatic secular. I mean, I'm not secular. That would assume that I tolerate other religions, which I do not. Moderate traditional, relatively strongly traditional here, and assimilationist as well, very non-multicultural. So, I mean, it's a good test, I would say so. Not bad. Maybe like a few of these divides I don't really agree with. Like, the opposite of globalism is isolation. Like, globalism entails something different. Like, I would like to see more of like a divide between, for example, nationalism and internationalism. Something like that would be cooler. But otherwise, pretty good test. Interesting. I mean, it doesn't tell me anything about myself, really, that I didn't already know. But hey, whatever. It's cool. It's cool anyways. So, I'd like to thank you for watching. And how about you just drop a little bit of a like and a subscribe and a comment and something like that? That'd be very cool of you. Anyways, I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, have fun and goodbye.